there, Simbi. My name is Amy, and I'm here with a story for you today. And this one is called Jam. Mr. and Mrs. Castle lived in a white house with a big green lawn, and their three children were called Clement, Clarissa, and Carlo. Three little castles, said Mr. Castle, but very small ones, more like cottages, really. Mrs. Castle was the cleverest castle of the whole family. What a one she is, said Mr. Castle. She could whip up a pot of atomic porridge, she could tuck a computer into bed and sing it to sleep with a lullaby. If she decided to go to the moon, I don't think she'd even need a rocket to get there. He was very proud of his wife. One day, Mrs. Castle announced that she'd found herself a job. Important scientists were developing an electronic medicine to cure sunspots, and they had sent for Mrs. Castle. But who's going to look after us? Asked Clement. Isn't anyone going to be here when we come home from school? Asked Clarissa. And Carlo was too young to say anything, but he also looked worried. I shall be here, my dear little cottagers, Mr. Castle cried. You have no reason to be anxious. He washed dishes and then pegged them out to dry. Not only did he sweep the floors, he swept the ceilings too. He vacuumed the carpets and put the dough to rise in a warm place, wiped down the benches and had a quick cup of tea, planted a row of cabbages, folded the wash and baked the bread and a cake, put Carlo down for his afternoon sleep, had another cup of tea and cleaned the bath. Then he prepared dinner, read the paper as to be well informed, kissed the children when they came home from school, and asked Mrs. Castle when she came home from work and asked them all what sort of day that they had had. What a busy daddy's been, hey? Lots of jobs. And then he gave Mrs. Castle a glass of sherry and handed her the paper and took the children out for a game on the big green lawn. He was an excellent house father. Indeed, he was so good that one day he actually ran out of work. While he tried to think of just what to do there next, came a soft thud on the roof. And then another one. Sunspots, cried Mr. Castle and ran outside. But it was not the sound of falling sunspots he had heard, but ripe plums tumbling off the old plum tree which had grown behind the house. And Mr. Castle was delighted. See all the plums falling down? I'll show them, he cried. They think they know all my capacities, but I'll show them my talents beyond their wildest dreams. Gathering up the fallen plums, he made 3 pots of plum jam. My dear, how wonderful, exclaimed Mrs. Castle. Clarissa, Clement, and Carlo thought it was wonderful too. And the next day, many more plums fell from the tree, and Mr. Castle made 20 pots of plum jam. And the following day, the ground under the bridge and much more of the roof were covered with big purple plums. So Mr. Castle made 30 pots of plum. It's hard to say. 30 pots of plum jam. But the day after that, there were even more plums, and Mr. Castle had run out of jam jars. What a challenge, he cried. Not a single plum must be wasted. He filled all the vases in the house with jam. He filled the glasses they used for sherry, even Carlo's rabbit mug, and the teapot were filled with jam. The whole house is like a jam factory, said Clement. It's like a school for jam pots, said Clarissa. Your father is a born artist, said Mrs. Castle. He is the Picasso of jam makers. But now we must eat it all up, said Mr. Castle firmly. That's a lot of jam to eat, isn't it? So they began with jam sandwiches, and Mrs. Castle and Clement and Clarissa had jam sandwiches in their lunches. Mr. Castle prepared for them every morning. Carlo, who was cutting new teeth, had jam on his crust. Hooray, called Mr. Castle. We've emptied the teapot already. We'll be able to have tea with our scones, pancakes, roly-polies, and sponge cakes. That winter, the roof leaked a little, so Mr. Castle his jam proved very useful, for it stopped leaks as well as being delicious on steamed puddings. When the tiles came off the bathroom floor, Mr. Castle stuck them down again with jam, and after weeks of devoted jam eating, they could put flowers in the vases again and drink sherry from glasses instead of from egg cups. I wouldn't care if I never saw another pot of jam in my life, Clarissa whispered to Clement. Don't tell Daddy I said so. You can't help getting sick of jam, Clement agreed. In the meantime, they had jam with everything and on everything and everything, and their dreams became haunted with jam. Clement dreamt that the sky opened and jam rained down on him. Clarissa dreamed of fat, shadowy jam pots marching through the night, crying out a terrible war cry of jam, jam, jam. Mrs. Castle dreamed that it was proved that sunspots were caused by too much jam, and Carlo dreamed that great jamming dreams as well. And their days were full of jam eating and their nights of dreams all dripping with jam. Getting a bit jam crazy, isn't it? They even woke up feeling sticky and not in the mood for breakfast. Jam on porridge, jam on toast, with a cup of tea sweetened with jam to follow. Then one morning, Mr. Castle went to the cupboard to get down the next pot of jam, only to find it was empty and there was not a single potful left. Let's have egg sandwiches for lunch, said Mrs. Castle. Let's have fish and chips, suggested Clement. Spaghetti and salad, cried Clarissa. And the baby's thinking about an ice cream sundae. But first, let's have a game on the lawn, said Mr. Castle. We've eaten so much jam, we look like jam pots ourselves. We shall have to get back to our old shapes. Now, while they were playing on the lawn, Mr. Castle heard a soft thud on the roof, and he looked up at the plum tree enthusiastically. A year of jam eating had gone by, and the plums were ripe again. Oh no. And that's the end of the story. Hope you liked it. Bye.